Welcome back to EBN TV. This is the Prime Edition, and you know every Wednesday we have Know Your Law. Now on today's edition, we are blessed to have Chris Kamanzi, if I got that wrong. Charles, no, sorry. What? All right, so sorry. That is Charles, and today the advocate of the High Court of Kenya and also a partner, and he'll be telling us more about his farm before we even get to the day's discussion. So I'll allow him to introduce himself because I've butchered the first one. I hope he will forgive me, and he'll introduce himself way better. Karibu Akili.
Thank you so much. It is all forgiven.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes, my name is Charles Kaminza. I am an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. I practice law under the firm of Mwendo and Kaminza Advocates. We are located on 15th floor of FCB Mihirab, that is on Lenana Road.
Yes. And how has it been? How's the practice been for you?
The practice, in law we say the law is too wide. You learn every day. So I have been in practice since 2018, so it's been a learning curve. There are areas where even today I will admit that I have not interacted with them a lot, but every day we say when you meet a new monster, you have to approach it, tackle it, and in the process you learn, because legal practice is very, very wide. So you can't say that you know everything. So by the time I get to the age of advocates like Hamino, I'm sure I'll have experienced a lot more, but it's been a good learning experience.
It's been a good learning experience, and we are grateful for you to allow us to have a bit of that experience today on today's show. And as I told you, my esteemed viewer back at home, is that today we're going to look at the organization in organizations. Now we do know that there are very many organizations. They vary from one organization to the other. They vary maybe in terms of what they do and how they run their activities. But to be specific on what you're going to touch mostly today about is about the religious organization. We've tackled this sometime before with a pastor here on board, and today it's only wise that we do it with a lawyer who's going to tell us more about the organizations. And also one of the main one of my main issues of concern, Wakili, maybe would be we have always had organizations way before even the realization of a religious organization bill. So what exactly makes an organization, if I can ask it that way? Like, because apparently an organization has to be registered, of course, but then how do you get through the process of registering your organization as an organization recognized by the state?
Okay, thank you for the question. To begin with, as you've said, organizations are far wide. They range from those in business, which are aimed at making profits, to those which are not in business, so not for profit making. And the nature of the organization is what determines the law you'll find it regulated under, and also the procedure for its registration. So we have organizations like companies and partnerships and cooperatives, which are more business oriented for profit making, which are regulated differently, even within themselves. Like for example, companies you'll find regulated under the Companies Act. Partnerships, there's a Partnerships Act, there's a Limited Liability Partnerships Act. And for cooperatives, you have the Cooperatives Act. Then there are those organizations which exist for charitable purposes or non-profit purposes, and they also vary. So you'll find like NGOs previously regulated under the Non-Governmental Organization Coordination Act, which has now been replaced with the Public Benefits Organizations Act. Then you have entities like churches, which are currently regulated under the Societies Act. So depending on the organization that you have, you will find yourself being regulated under a particular regime of law, and the requirements for registration for you to be recognized tend to vary because of the different nature of the organization. But there are some basic core similarities you'll find in all of them. Like for example, you'll find that they will always require that you have a proposed office for your proposed organization. So you will always have to have a physical address, postal address, nowadays telephone and email address. The other thing is across board you'll find that they will require that you have a constituting document. In companies we call it a memorandum of association and articles of association. In a partnership you'll find a partnership deed. In a religious organization you'll find a constitution. So that would be one. Then there is what we call proposals. So you'll find across board there is a requirement you have proposals. Now the number varies from what kind of organization you have. Like now companies, the minimum is 1. In a partnership you find the minimum is 2. In a cooperative you find the minimum is 10. In a religious organization they don't specifically say minimum, but you are required to have a set minimum of officials of 5 of 3 officials. So that would basically become the proposals of that particular organization.
Okay. So maybe let's just narrow it down straight to a bone of contention tonight, and that is the religious organization bill. Now you had mentioned earlier, and I'm grateful you did, that originally the church was under the societies, right? So why was there a need to move it from a society and now to have it wholly or secluded from the societies, and now to have a religious organization bill drafted?
Okay, when I look at the statement of objective which is published alongside the bill, they actually set out why they have gone out to come up with this piece of legislation. And the main gist of it you find is that they say that regulation of religious organization in the country was loose, and that has led to some particular persons or organization being either extreme in nature, taking advantage of poor innocent Kenyans, and so it is felt that there is a need to come up with a new regulatory framework which will ensure that the rogue elements within the religion sector are tamed, and then we don't have the extremes like we saw with the incident of Shakahola or others which we have previously seen being broadcast. So the basic, from what we can see from the statement of the objective, the aim is to put better regulation for religious organizations. Yes.
But then if that is the case, then why is the church heavily against it? Because I've seen time without number, and we've featured it on our bulletins, that there are organizations, either the Clergy Association of Kenya or individual bishops or representatives from the NCCK have come out strongly, and a huge chunk is of the Christian organizations. They've come out hugely to condemn or to oppose this bill. Why do you think they're against it? If at all, the reasons for the bill was to help tame rogue entities.
I think generally in society we tend to be opposed to stringent and stringent regulation when it is proposed. But I think a proper reading of the entire bill, from my view, shows that yes, indeed, there are some progresses being made, but I felt disappointed with the approach towards regulation of religious organizations, and I will use the example we have within the legal sector, where it's a bit more of a hybrid of self-regulation and government regulation. Now, the bill itself proposes to more or less leans towards government regulation and doesn't leave room for self-regulation. I would have preferred a situation where we have a hybrid, because the challenge with government regulation is that I don't know how many religious persons are in government, therefore they would be able to keep up with the trends of the time as society moves or in that particular field moves, and so therefore they are able to make timely changes to the regulations to ensure that they match up with the times. But in a hybrid situation, you find that because the people in the profession feel the impact of whatever is changing in society, they tend to be more proactive in proposing changes to how the sector is regulated. And so a hybrid approach for me works
Would
better
have
as
been
opposed
better.
to what they have proposed here, because when you look at the bill, it's basically the office of the Attorney General having control over everything,
Yeah.
and to some degree county governments coming in through the county secretary in charge of social services and culture, because those are the people with the power to clamp down or do inspections and ensure that the provisions of the act are complied with. That's my first disappointment. My second disappointment would be the process of dispute resolution, which we also see quite significantly affecting religious organization, has not been really focused into. Because I would prefer a situation where we have a well-designed dispute resolution mechanism that focuses more on what challenges religious organization face,
Go through,
instead of leaving them to always run to court for resolution of their disputes. Yes, so I would have preferred where they propose dispute resolution mechanism which is meant to address the challenges that we've seen with churches when they have disputes, either within the religious organization or among various religious organizations. Yes.
Wow. Well, so let me ask, maybe straight out of it. Now, another main reason why the churches have this huge uproar is because they feel that they're going to be taxed, and the taxation, the amount or the percentages that is being asked of by the government feels too high or too cumbersome for them. I would ask maybe this question in two ways. Number one, is it okay for them to come up with the taxation way or the mode of taxation, or should it first, when it comes to taxes and all, shouldn't it go back to either the finance committee or maybe the KRA, and then from them now to the religious organization bill?
Okay. This is not a taxation bill, so naturally there shouldn't be anything about taxation in it. From the provisions I've read, I would believe the main issue where people are saying taxation will be introduced would be clause 31. It doesn't say that they will tax churches. What clause 31 says is that they keep separate accounts for taxable and non-taxable items. So the law today is that tithes, donations to the church, and any other contributions which are voluntary to the church are not taxed, because they don't fall under taxable income under section 3(2) of the Income Tax Act. And I think there is a decision from the High Court which confirmed that position. But there are other incomes of the church which fall within what we would call taxable income. Like, for example, churches own premises and they collect rent. So that rental income is taxable. You'd find churches which sell material, and the profits they would make from there will become taxable. If you run, for example, like a media station like this one, and you make profits from it, it's taxable. So what the bill is proposing is whatever is you're making which is taxable, don't put it in the same account as what is not taxable. That's basically what I have found in the bill.
They're saying.
Now, even for those taxable items, churches are allowed actually to apply for exemptions under section 13 and paragraph 10 of schedule 1. So they are allowed actually to apply for exemptions for those items being taxed, and KRA usually looks at, there's a criteria developed for seeing whether you qualify for it, and then you are granted the exemption.
And that is by KRA?
And that is by KRA. So by and large, what I would say is that I haven't seen any provision here which says that churches will be taxed. What they are simply being asked is to separate their incomes so that we have non-taxable incomes being banked in one account, and the taxable incomes being banked in another account. And I think that mainly for administratively, so that KRA can always know where. It makes it easier for KRA to know which account should be scrutinized and look at them. But be that as it may, I think the question still arises. And because I started by saying this is not a taxation bill, so would an issue which would amount to administration of tax or arrangement of how taxes should be done be really put in this bill? So the main question I would be asking actually, should that item be discussed in this bill, or should we be putting it in an amendment to the Income Tax Act or the Tax Administration Act? Yes.
Thank you very much for that. Now, maybe just still on when you were talking about the religious organization bill, why then, apart from that, now that we have clarified that, and I hope the message is home, now that we have clarified that there is no new taxation or new tax measures being introduced towards the religious organizations, what reason, apart from the ones that you stated earlier, but what other reason do you think the church is bringing about that is showing that maybe something is lacking in this this organization, religious organization bill?
Well, I have heard from what I have heard reported, other than the taxation issue, there is the issue of qualifications for you to be a religious leader or something of that sort. Yes, the Act does require for any religious organization to be registered at least one religious leader have either a degree, a certificate, or a diploma in theology. But that's at least one.
At least, yeah.
At least one. It doesn't say everyone. In fact, when you look, I think it is clause 11, it says that one may sit in the board of trustees of the church, but then there are others, 7 proposed, who are other religious leaders. Now, it doesn't say they have to have this qualification. I think the main idea behind this, and I think we will all agree, is that churches nowadays have evolved. It isn't just about spreading the gospel.
Yeah.
They have become a center for development for people through several other services they offer, like counseling, guidance and counseling. You have these recollections or retreats where they offer guidance to people.
Yeah.
These, by and large, are what you would call professional areas outside
the church,
the preaching of the gospel. And so I believe one of the reasons why they are trying to introduce this element is because we are seeing in not just churches, actually, even in other religious organizations, there is this recognition that when you come to a church, other than the spiritual food that you are receiving, there is need to offer you more as a person, because the spiritual also needs to go alongside with your personal development. And that's why you find recollections in churches on how to live better. They are I think it's called Better Men something. I've seen it in one of the churches where they mentor young men to become better men as they grow up. So you see, within that program, you're not just dealing with spirituality, you're dealing with other elements of life. Now, the consequences of having someone take up such responsibilities over people without the professional qualifications for this is quite risky. And so I believe that's why one of the things they are trying to introduce here is to sprinkle it a bit and require that in churches. Yes.
Okay.
But it's an issue which needs to be approached delicately, because we don't want to be, we wouldn't like a situation where we are making the preaching of the gospel purely about your academic qualifications. But we also recognize the extended role of the church. Yes, so it requires a balance, and I think they try as much as possible to reach that balance by reducing it to a minimum of one person. All right, thank you very much. And maybe just as we sum it all up, so is it safe to say that most church, a higher percentage of the church uproar that we're witnessing right now could be that either the people have not read this bill or they have not understood this bill perfectly well, hence the huge uproar in antagonizing it? Because I've even seen the Muslims have been quiet, the Hindus are quiet, but it is only the Christians who have boldly opposed this bill. I would say it's a combination of both. In the sense that yes, they may have read, but they may have misunderstood it. Because I think for you to understand the bill, you have to start from why are we coming to this bill, and the why is is the previous incidents we have seen with Shakahola, with and other previous incidents of religious leaders going overboard with their congregations and abusing their trust relationship. That is clearly stated in the statement of objectives of the Act. Now, once you've understood that, then you have to ask yourself, the question is, so if we have seen Shakahola and we have seen all those other incidences, how do we move, how do we ensure that we don't have that repeat itself?
A repeat of the same.
Now, the government's response is this bill. Now, for me, I feel while it's fine, it needed a little bit more of a broader stakeholder engagement where you don't just choose a government regulation, you have a balanced regulation where you have a hybrid situation where you have both the religious and the government coming in and working together to ensure that there is proper regulation within the religious organizations. I would say that. But now, that's why I say now it's a combination of both. There are some things which are outrightly wrong from my reading of the bill, like now the issue of taxation. But there are others which, when raised, they are genuine, but we need to look back and understand where we are coming from, and then understand the bill from that perspective, because it's trying to propose solutions to problems which we are facing currently in the society. So it's both a question of not reading it, because if you read it, you would see clearly there's no taxation, but also an issue of people not having understood what the bill is
all about.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. And that's all the time we had for tonight on Know Your Law. Today we were talking about the Organization of Organizations, and specifically we were looking at the Religious Organization Bill and trying to figure out why do we need a separate religious organization bill. How different does it differ from the societal act, and from what we have been having over the years, and this being new. So thank you very much to each and everyone for your time. I will allow you maybe to say your goodbye.
Thank you for having me. It has been a great pleasure. I think it's important that we continue having such discussions so that the public is also aware of what is going on, and they are able to understand the implication of some of these things in their lives, and also in the way they are governed, because these bills are meant for the public. The law is meant for the public. So thank you for the opportunity to engage in this conversation. It's a good one. I think we should keep up doing it.
Thank you very much. Well, that's all the time. As I said earlier, my name is Consolata Chibalonza, and I was with Advocate of the High Court of Kenya, Charles. Yeah, I got it right this time, right? And that is Charles. Thank you very much for joining us on Know You Know. I wish you a good night from both of us, and thank you very much, Michael Dipo on the cameras. Thank you very much, Mosese, on the other side of the studio. Until next time, God bless.